Hold on to your seats because we are diving headfirst into a mind-blowing, heart-pounding moment that rocked Hollywood to its core. Imagine this one of Tinseltown's most legendary actors, Michael Douglas, struts onto Views, said expecting a breezy promotional chat. He is primed to flash that megawatt smile, charm a host, and dish about his latest blockbuster. But what unfolds is a fiery, no-holds-barred clash that spirals into one of the wildest meltdowns in daytime TV history. Before we jump into this electrifying tale, smash that subscribe button and drop a comment below. Tell me what is the craziest celebrity interview meltdown you have ever seen. And if you're watching on your phone, tap that hype button to show love for this insane story you are about to hear. It all kicked off on a seemingly normal morning when Michael Douglas, a titan with decades of Hollywood cred, strolled onto the View's brightly lit set. He was there to plug his newest project, expecting the usual fluffy questions about his craft co-stars, maybe a playful jab or two. After all, he has done thousands of interviews, each one smoother than the last, his charm practically a superpower. But the second he sat down, something felt off. The air buzzed with tension. Joy Behar, the show's resident firecracker, had that glint in her, either one that screams trouble is brewing, and boy did it brew fast. Michael Joy began, barely letting him settle into his seat. Let's talk about your new movie, but first, I got something that's been eating at me. Her tone was sharper, smile more like a smirk. You have been in this industry for decades, raking in millions, while regular folks out there scraping by, barely able to pay their bills. How you sleep at night justifying that kind of wealth gap. The studio went dead quiet. Michael's eyebrows shot up, his polished grin faltering for a split second. This was not the softball opener he had braced for the audience, expecting. A cozy chat shifted in their seats. Off-camera, Michael's publicist looked like she had just swallowed a lemon. Well, Joy, Michael replied, keeping his cool, but with a hint of steel in his voice. That is a pretty loaded way to kick things off. I worked hard for everything I got, just like anyone else in any job. Worked hard? Joy fired back, her voice dripping with sarcasm. You mean you worked hard being born into Hollywood royalty? Your father was Kirk Douglas, for heaven's sake. Some of us had to claw our way up from nothing. The other hosts, Whoopi Goldberg, Sarah Haynes, and Sunny Hostin, swapped uneasy glances. This was supposed to be a breezy promotional segment, not a fool-in-class warfare debate. The tension was already thick, and they were barely 2 minutes in. Joy, I think you are being a bit unfair, Michael said, his voice steady, but his famous composure started to fray at the edges. Yes, my father was successful, but that does not erase the decades I have put into this industry. I have earned my place. Earned your place? Joy let out a harsh, bitter laugh that echoed through the studio. Please, Michael, you had doors flung open for you that most people could not even knock on, and now you are sitting here in your fancy suit preaching about hard work to folks who cannot afford their electric bills. Whoopi, ever the diplomat, tried to steer the ship back to calmer waters. Joy, maybe we should talk about Michael's movie. But Joy was not having it. She held up a hand, silencing Whoopi. Her eyes locked on Michael like a predator sizing up its prey. No, this is important. These celebrities waltz onto our show acting like they're just like us when they live in a totally different universe. Tell me, Michael, when was the last time you pump your own gas? When was the last time you worry about buying groceries? Michael's jaw tightened. You could see the storm brewing behind his eyes, the kind of anger that only comes when someone is pushed too far. Joy, he said, his voice low and controlled, I do not think attacking me personally is against anywhere. I came here to talk about a project I am passionate about as a courtesy to your show. A courtesy? Joy's voice shot up an octave, her face flushed with indignation. You came here to sell movie tickets and line your pockets. Even more, do not act like you're doing us some grand favor. The studio was now a pressure cooker. Sarah looked mortified. Sunny was flipping through her notes like they held the secret to world peace, and the audience sat in stunned silence, soaking in every second of this live TV train wreck. Michael's publicist was probably drafting her resignation letter off stage. You know what, Joy, Michael said, his voice growing colder, sharper. I have done thousands of interviews over the years, and I have never encountered this level of unprofessionalism from a host. What are you even trying to accomplish here? Joy leaned forward, a gleam of satisfaction in her eyes. She was getting the reaction she wanted. I am trying to get some honesty from someone who has spent his entire career pretending to be something he is not. You play these working class heroes on screen, but in real life you are just another out-off-touch Hollywood elitist. That is when something snapped in Michael. The diplomatic mask he had worn for decades, the one that had carried him through countless interview scandals and red carpets, began to crumble. You want honesty, Joy, he said, his voice dropping to a low, dangerous growl. Here is some honesty I have sat through interviews with Journalists who actually know how to do their job, what you are doing right now. This is not journalism. It is a hit job dressed up as an interview. Joy's eyes lit up, clearly thriving on the chaos also. Now I do not know how to do my job. That is rich coming from someone who has never worked a real day in his life. A real day. Michael's laugh was sharp, humorless lady. I have been working since my 20s. I have produced films, built businesses, created jobs for hundreds of people. What have you contributed to the world besides sitting behind that desk lobbing cheap shots at people who have actually accomplished something? The studio was now a battlefield. The other host stared in shock. No guest had ever gone to a toto with joy like this on live television production. Crew frantically gesturing behind the cameras, did not know whether to cut the commercial or let this explosive showdown play out. Joy's face turned beet red, her voice trembling with fury. How dare you question my contributions? I have been a working comedian and TV host for decades. I have earned everything I have without a famous daddy handing it to me. Working comedian. Michael shot back his composure. Now, completely gone. Is that what you call this? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you are using your platform to bully guests who cannot fight back. Well, guess what, Joy? I am not intimidated by you. Whoopee tried again, her voice tinged with desperation. Okay, let's all take a breath. No, Whoopee, Michael interrupted, turning to her with a mix of apology and resolve. I am sorry, but your colleague has been out of line since the moment I sat down. This is not an interview, it is an ambush. Joy, undeterred, doubled down. An ambush. All I did was ask you some tough questions about your privilege. If you cannot handle that, maybe you should not be doing interviews. Tough questions. Michael's voice rose, matching Joy's intensity. You did not ask about my work, my craft, or why I am here. You launched straight into a personal attack about my background. That is not tough questioning. That is just bad manners. Bad manners. Joy's scoffer voice hitting a shrill note. You want to talk about bad manners? How about the bad manners of hoarding wealth while people sleep on the streets? How about the bad manners of living in a bubble while preaching social responsibility? Through your movies, the camera zoomed in, capturing every bead of sweat on Michael's forehead, every pulse of the vein in Joy's temple. This was not daytime TV anymore. It was a raw, unfiltered fight, playing out for millions. You know what, Joy? Michael said, his voice steady, but laced with menace. Let's talk about bubbles. You sit here every day in your cozy studio, making millions yourself, and you have the audacity to lecture me about being out of touch. When was the last time you took a subway? When was the last time you shopped at a regular grocery store instead of having everything delivered to your penthouse? Joy's mouth opened, then closed like a fish gasping for air. She had not expected Michael to flip the script so brutally. That is different, she stammered. I did not inherit my career from a famous father. No, Michael fired back. You just inherited your spot on this show by saying whatever outrageous thing would boost ratings. At least I create something. My movies, my productions, they employ thousands, tell stories that resonate with millions. What do you create, Joy, besides division and negativity? The audience was frozen to silence, so thick you could hear the hum of the studio lights. Even the camera crew stopped their usual bustling, mesmerized by this real-time implosion. Michael stood up, a move so rare. In live TV, it sent shockwaves through the set. The host flinched, and Joy's smirk faltered. You know what your problem is, Joy, he said, pointing directly at her. You are bitter. You are sitting there taking out your frustrations on someone who has built something with their life. You want to talk about social responsibility. How about the responsibility of a talk show host to treat their guests with basic respect? Joy shot to her feet, refusing to let Michael dominate the stage. The sight of them standing, squaring off like boxers in a ring, was surreal for a morning show. Do not you dare psychoanalyze me, Michael Douglas, she snarled. I do not need life lessons from someone who has never faced a real challenge in his pampered existence. Pampered existence. Michael's voice cracked with disbelief and rage. I have battled throat cancer that nearly killed me. I have endured public divorces splashed across every tabloid. I have rebuilt my career when people wrote me off. I have dealt with addiction in my family. That would break most people, but you would not know any of that, Joy, because you did not bother to do a shred of research. You just decided to attack me from the jump. Sarah looked like she might burst into tears. Sonny was scribbling furiously, probably praying for a way to salvage this disaster. This was supposed to be a feel-good segment, and instead, it was a bloodbath. Joy, fueled by the conflict, pressed on. Oh, boo, Michael, you had some personal problems while living in mansions and jet-setting around the world. Cry me a river. Some of us have real problems. Real problems. Michael's voice boomed loud enough to echo through the studio. You think money somehow shielded me from pain, from suffering. That is the most ignorant thing you have said yet. And that is saying something. The control room was chaos, producers gesturing wildly, debating whether to cut to commercial, but this was too gripping, too raw to stop. Joy crossed her arms, smirking, look at you getting all worked up because someone finally called you out on your privilege. This is exactly what I am. Talking about you cannot handle criticism because you have been surrounded by yes men your whole life. Yes men. Michael's laugh was bitter, cutting. I work in Hollywood. Joy, there is no shortage of people ready to tear you down. The difference is they usually have the decency to do it when you're not a guest on their show. Decency. Joy's voice hit a fever pitch. What about the decency of admitting your advantages instead of pretending you are a self-made man? What about the decency of not lying to our audience about what it is like to be filthy rich? I never lied. Michael roared. You are the one lying. Pretending this is about justice when it is just you tearing someone down to feel better about yourself. And that is when Michael lost it. His voice erupted, years of pent-up frustration pouring out. I am done, Joy, done with this charade. You want to talk about real problems? You sit here every day spewing hatred, poison the airwaves, dividing people. And you have the gall to lecture me about privilege. Joy's smirk vanished. She had not expected this level of ferocity. You think you are some champion of the people, Michael continued, his voice booming. You are nothing but a professional antagonist building a career on tearing others down. You do not create, you do not inspire, you just feed off conflict like a vulture. How dare you? Joy tried to interrupt, but Michael was not stopping. No, you have had your say, he said, raising a hand. Now it is my turn. You want to talk about earning things? I've been nominated for Oscars, won Golden Globes, produced films that employ thousands. What is your legacy? Joy, being really good at making people squirm. The studio was a graveyard silent, except for Michael's voice. Joy, try to rally. You think your awards make you special. You think a few pats on the back from Hollywood give you the right to what? Michael exploded, stepping closer to the table. The right to expect basic respect from a host. The right to promote my work without being ambushed. Yes, Joy, I think I have those rights. Every guest does. Whoopi was frantically signaling for a commercial break, but the producers were too captivated to act. Michael's voice dropped to a chilling whisper. You know what your real problem is, Joy? You are jealous. You are seething with envy because others have accomplished things you never could. You will never be remembered for anything positive, just for being mean for no reason. Joy's face was a mask of fury and humiliation. You do not know what you are talking about, she stammered. I have worked harder than you ever have. Harder. Michael's laugh was icy at what it being unpleasant, at making guests feel unwelcome. If that is work, you are the hardest worker in America. Sarah finally spoke, her voice trembling. Maybe we should all just know, Sarah. Michael cut his tone softer, but firm. This needed to happen. Someone had to call out this behavior. How many guests have sat here and been attacked like this? How many have left feeling diminished? Joy, scrambling, tried one last jab. You're having a meltdown on live TV. Michael, this is the entitled behavior I was talking about. Entitled. Michael's voice hit crescendo, making everyone flinch. Standing up for myself is entitled. Refusing to be your punching bag is entitled. Entitled is thinking you can treat people however you want because you have a microphone. Entitled is believing your cynicism makes you morally superior. The silence was suffocating. Michael looked at the host, then straight into the camera. I came here to talk about a project. I am passionate about something your viewers might have enjoyed. Instead, I got interrogated about my life, my family. That is not entertainment. It is just mean-spirited. He started walking off the set. Joy made a final desperate play. So you're just running away when things get heated, real mature. Michael, he stopped, turned his eyes, blazing. Run away. I have faced down studio execs, cancer scandals, and rebuilt my career multiple times. You think a bitter talk show host scares me? He stepped close to the security guards, tensing. Here is what is going to happen. I am walking out with my dignity. You are going to sit there and think about how you treated a guest who came in good faith, and maybe, just maybe, you will realize being controversial is not the same as being interesting. With that, he walked off, leaving Joy speechless, her face a mix of shock, anger, and perhaps a flicker of shame. The cameras lingered. The producers finally cut to commercial, but the damage was done in under 15 minutes. Michael Douglas had dismantled Joy Behar's credibility, exposed the ugliness of ambush journalism, and turned a routine interview into a cultural lightning bolt. This was not just a TV moment. It was a reckoning, a reminder that even legends have their limits, and when you push too far, you might just get burned. So what do you think? Was Michael justified in his epic takedown? Or did he go too far? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And do not forget to subscribe for more stories of celebrity showdowns that will leave you speechless.